You really do help me out a lot. Thank you. For 20 years, I respected my husband as he drove me to the station every day to go to work. He would thank me every time. However, when I was giving him a ride home as usual, I felt something strange when I looked at his fingertips. I couldn't stop shaking as I realized what was hidden there. That night, I secretly disappeared without my husband finding out. 21 years ago, my father suddenly became ill. He had been running his company with great energy until then, so I was deeply shocked by his sudden departure. What helped me recover was meeting Takayuki through a friend's introduction. I was comforted by his cheerfulness, which allowed him to laugh off hardships, and we started dating. Then, a year later, Takayuki proposed to me, and we were happily married. I really like the taste of this Horexa no Hai. That's komatsu. Are you really eating it now? It doesn't matter. It's still delicious. My husband was a bit careless, but that was also fun and made me happy. Takayuki was the president of a construction company he had inherited from his father, which was about a 30-minute train ride from our house. For the 20 years since we got together, I had been using my husband to pick him up and drop him off at work. He would always thank me, so it wasn't a problem at all. However, about 3 years ago, he started coming to work early in the morning or late at night, and I had to wait for him. Why do you come to work so late? Isn't it already light by the time you get home? Sometimes he can only work at night because of his clients' needs. I wasn't familiar with the circumstances of the industry he worked in, so I thought it might be a common occurrence and accepted it for the time being. I wanted to support my husband, who worked hard regardless of the time, so I did as he asked. Sometimes Takayuki would bring a large group of workers and ask me to give him a ride part of the way. These guys are all our employees. To be honest, I was bothered by the fact that everyone, including my husband, would get in the car without even trying to brush off the dirt and rust. That just shows how hard they work. But what was strange was that it was always a different person every time. I suddenly wondered if the turnover of employees was really that high. I was worried that the work was so difficult that employees didn't last long, but there were other things about Takayuki that bothered me. The bath is open. Thank you. I'll put away my work documents first before I go. No matter how dirty my husband's work was, he would always head straight to his desk when he got home. He's enthusiastic, but I wonder if he doesn't mind if sand falls into the room. So I thought I'd at least vacuum the room while Takayuki was taking a bath. But when my husband got out of the bath, he looked at me in the bathroom and gave me a stern look. Hey, why did you just come in without permission? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. But I just wanted to clean it up a little, so don't do anything unnecessary since there are important company documents there. I was locked out like that, and I stood there dumbfounded at the harsh scolding from my usually kind husband, But when I saw him again later, he had completely returned to his cheerful self. It was my fault for coming in without permission. Still, the shock and confusion of the call did not go away, and I began to avoid going near his room. One day, about 2 weeks later, I was out in the garden to start a regular family rekindling project that I had started at the urging of Yuji, who was a farmer. When I finished my work and returned inside, my husband seemed to be talking to someone in the living room on the phone. He didn't seem to notice me coming into the room, and he was speaking in a rough voice that I didn't usually hear. I had to have the usual contractor take it away quickly. If I didn't hurry, I might run out of places to sell it. As I was thinking about whether to go outside while looking at my husband, he turned around, as if he had sensed my presence. When Takayuki saw me, he hurriedly ended the call and put on a fake smile, sticking it to the wall. "I'm sorry. Did I scare you? I can't help but use a bad mouth when I'm talking about work." "Oh, yeah, I see." I pretended to be fine, but deep down inside, the fear of being yelled at before was coming back to me. That's why I couldn't look my husband in the eye. I had begun to feel awkward towards Takayuki, even though he might be strict with his employees at work and it shouldn't have been that big of a deal. Nevertheless, I continued to pick him up every day, and the following weekend, late at night, I went to pick him up as usual. "You're always a big help. Thank you." Quote. I felt bad for the fact that he kept telling me that, but I was still secretly scared. Takayuki's work clothes were dirty as he sat in the passenger seat, and I could tell he had been working really hard. However, when my husband tried to bring the drink bottle to his mouth, I felt something strange when I saw his fingertips. Could it be? The thought that crossed my mind at that moment was terrifying, and I thought, no way. But once I had the idea, it wouldn't go away, and my body trembled with a bad feeling. "What's wrong? You're quiet today, so late at night." "No, you're not usually like this." Still, I desperately tried to cover it up so that Takayuki wouldn't notice, and somehow managed to get home. Then, while my husband was taking a bath, I contacted a certain place to confirm the facts. "No way. That's not true." I looked up at the sky in despair at the expected answer. And after waiting for Takayuki to fall asleep, he secretly left the painting before dawn and disappeared. In any case, I had to find out why this had happened. So I asked someone to stay at my house and help me uncover the truth. Then, more and more evidence started to accumulate, and the whole picture of what had happened began to emerge. About a week later, I returned home. I had emailed my husband in advance that I would be coming home, so he greeted me at the door. Takayuki wanted to say something, but I suggested that we sit down at the table and calm down before talking. "I'm sorry I've been away for so long." "Well, I'm glad you're okay, but I wish you had said something before you went somewhere." He was unusually sullen and complaining. "I'm sorry. But I thought it might be dangerous if I said anything unnecessary." What do you mean? I never imagined what kind of tricks you would use to hide your crime. Then my husband turned to me with a look of pity on his face. I can't understand what you're saying. What did I do? You guys are the culprits behind the recent spate of cable thefts from farmhouses, greenhouses in the prefecture over the past 3 years, aren't you? When I asked him directly, Takayuki's eyes widened and he froze. After a short pause, he seemed to come to his senses and smiled forcefully. What's wrong all of a sudden? There's no way you're going to steal anything. Why did you think that? When I went to pick you up that day, I saw some uniquely colored dirt stuck between your fingernails. At that moment, I remembered something I had seen when I visited a female farmer friend's farm. That farm used a special blend of black soil that was rarely seen anywhere else. I knew at first glance that it was that dirt on your finger. I had heard about the thefts at nearby farms from a friend. That's when I started to suspect that my husband was working late at night and early in the morning, and that the phone call he had made the other day was suspicious. I couldn't believe it, but I hurriedly asked my friend to confirm it after I got home. Then I heard that the cable had indeed been stolen from the greenhouse in her field, and I was convinced that Takayuki had done it. Unable to accept what was happening, I was shaken and hurriedly left the house so that my husband wouldn't find out. You must be imagining it. Why would I do something like that? It's not because your company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Perhaps tired of being alone, Takayuki stared at me with his mouth open. How did you know that? While I was hiding, I secretly went to check on your company. There was no one in the office though. I found it strange, so I asked the neighbors. They told me that apparently there had been no work requests for the past few years, and that there were hardly any people coming or going. Didn't he start stealing because he was short of money? No way. I went to work every day. He probably kept driving me to and from the station so that I wouldn't suspect any changes in his behavior. Takayuki was flustered and fumbling around, searching for an excuse. It's true that the business wasn't going well, but if you had let me use my father's inheritance more freely, I could have done something about it. Hey, don't make it sound like it's my fault. You didn't get together for the money, did you? Huh? What's wrong with that? Then what was the point of getting married? When he said that so nonchalantly, I felt like the trust I had built up over the past 20 years had crumbled away. In contrast to my stunned state, my husband seemed to have regained some composure, and his expression seemed more relaxed. But, it's true that we hid most of the fact that I was pregnant, but there's no evidence that we were stealing. Are you trying to make excuses? Even the thing about the dirt on my nails was ultimately your guess, and there's no way to verify it. Takayuki was completely carried away, crossing his legs and walking home arrogantly. In order to provide the evidence he wanted, I took out my laptop and displayed the video on the screen. This is a security video from a field that I borrowed with the help of a friend. When I started playing the video for my husband, a man with his face hidden was shown stealing a cable. It clearly recorded the scene where the incident was happening right now. But you wouldn't know who this was. How do you plan to prove that it was me? Look closely at this guy's feet. I pointed to the pure white sneakers that one of the members was wearing. Aren't these the same ones? So I pulled out a pair of white shoes from my bag that were in a plastic bag and showed them to him. The moment I put them on, Takayuki clearly shook and gasped. Why are those things here? Actually, I asked him to search Hatsusai when you came home while I was out. He found the sneakers, gloves, tools, etc. in the back of the closet. The reason my husband always headed straight to his room when he got home from work was to hide the evidence. That's probably why he absolutely didn't want me to go near there. It's pretty dirty, but if we leave it with a specialist, they'll be able to tell if the soil on it matches the one at the scene, right? Oh, there's no need to go to all that trouble. If there's nothing to hide, let's have it checked. Now, Takayuki's face was completely dejected, and he looked down weakly, and his voice was bewildered. What's wrong? Isn't it the farmer's fault for leaving something out that would be a problem if someone took it? Are you serious? If it was important, he should have managed it better. I think so too. I was speechless as he tried to get my approval with his childish excuses. I felt ashamed of myself for having trusted such a man for so many years. Don't mess with me. Even an elementary school student would know that you shouldn't take other people's things. Takayuki, who had fallen into a daze after being yelled at by me, soon woke up and attacked me, trying to somehow get the evidence. But then, the sound of a police car siren came from outside, startling him. Hey, isn't it getting closer? Yeah. I forgot to mention, but I called the police before we started talking, so they should be here soon. No way, are you kidding me? Are you coming to arrest me? My husband started trembling and held my hand, looking at me with a superior gaze. There's no need to make a big deal out of something like this. We've always gotten along well. I glared at Takayuki coldly and shook off his arm. It's a shame that I was with you. Don't show your face to me again. Soon the intercom rang, so I headed to the front door with a scared expression on my face. When I opened the door, a police officer was standing there, and as soon as I let him in, they immediately restrained Takayuki, who was trying to escape. Put him in, big sister, help me. Yuki looked at me and shed tears, but I just stared at her coldly. He was dragged away by the police. My husband was later arrested and sent to prison. And in fact, all the employees at Takayuki's company had already given up on him and quit. That's why they had temporarily hired workers from the black market to steal. That's why Takayuki took different people with him every time. Of course, those workers were also arrested one after another. He was sued for damages by my friend and other victims. The company went bankrupt and he was left with other debts, so he will probably struggle to pay the money for the rest of his life. On the other hand, I have regained my peaceful daily life. I started helping out on the farm after being invited by a friend, and every day is very fulfilling. I feel a great sense of accomplishment and joy in knowing that consumers are eating the vegetables I have grown. I feel like I have grown as a person by learning about the hardships and joys of making food.